drum, hit your whole body go crack. The baseline move, take it off of the map. We rock crowds every time we play. Boom, boom, back, yeah, we got it like that. Kick drum, hit your whole body go crack. The baseline move, take it off of the map.
What's good, my people? You know it's Jaydee Dyer each and every time, bringing you another episode of the Heat Check in the NBA season. Looking at this stage of where we are right now, every game matters, every moment matters, and new narratives are being written all the time. But shout out to one team that is definitely very consistent, and that's my Heat Check family, because we're always ready to deliver. So shout out to my guys each and every time, a brother who's excited about the prospects of his Phoenix Suns playing in the NBA Finals. And I know he's doubly excited about looking forward to the huge waves that he's going to make playing in Asia. Secure the bag, my bro, each and every time. Shout out to Ovie Soko. And my other guy, look, I see you, always bringing that California vibes, California sunshine. Hopefully you can tell me how the Clippers are feeling right now, deep into the playoffs. And obviously, you know who it is. Let's go, the Double M. Yeah, we all can't wait to find out how happy you are with the new direction of his Boston Celtics as they have a new coach. Sorry, let me get that right. A new head coach, yeah, each and every time. But shout out to you, Mo. Yeah, because the playoffs are in full swings, my guys. But we got some real important issues to catch people up with. But how are you lot, first of all?
I'm good, man. It's good to be back here with you guys. A lot of extremely fun playoff action going down at the moment, obviously. My Suns, they're playing with my emotions, but, you know, I feel like we've got a lot to talk about today. So, yeah, man, let's get to it.
Well, we're down at the Final Four. I'm thinking of Ovie last night. He looked like all of the other Suns fans were ready to go to the NBA Finals, and the Clippers said, hold on here, hold on. So, no, it's all good.
Man, listen, I'm excited as the playoffs are. Obviously, right now in Boston, we're welcoming some new additions to the Celtics family. One of them, I know all the 90s babies and the 80s babies in the house. We're very happy that Miss Nia Long is married to the new head coach of the Celtics, and we saw her rocking that Celtics jersey, looking fine as ever. So welcome to the Celtics family. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you very much, man. That's all I'm going to say to you. Thank you very much. But let's catch the people up with some of the latest news that's happening in and around the league, because we do need to catch you up with some of the coaching appointments that's happening around the league. First of all, Chauncey Billups has reached an agreement on a 5-year deal to become the head coach of the Portland Trailblazers. As we know, Chauncey Billups was the assistant coach for the LA Clippers this year, but will replace Terry Stotts, as of course, who departed at the beginning of this month. We already know Chauncey's history in terms of playing 17 years in the NBA, and of course that infamous 2003-2004 Detroit Pistons team that won a championship. But quite similarly around that, Jason Kidd has also been appointed as the head coach for Dallas going into next year. He'll replace the coach that he actually won a championship with. Can you believe it? Life does come around full circle. We know that Kidd and the Mavericks agreed a contract on Friday last week, 8 days after Rick Carlisle, of course, resigned. A wake of a huge departure. Now, there is a lot of controversy still around this situation, because we still need to note the important roles of the backlashes that's been out there via social media for both of these two head coaching appointments. Regardless of these gentlemen have been in the league, as you've just heard the description and how ingrained they are within the league. Portland have hired Chauncey Billups, who was accused, of course, of the sexual assault in 1997. And we know that Jason Kidd pled guilty to that spousal abuse in 2002. So even though both of the individuals, like I said, have been in the league, we're still waiting for a statement from both of the franchises before we can comment here on the Heat Check. But you know we're always going to bring you the latest news. But moving on to another actual hiring position, the Boston Celtics have made a big move this week. And they've hired the Brooklyn Nets assistant, Ime Udoka, as their new head coach. Now, I'm excited for this one, Mo. As much as we could talk about all the sort of different directions that we're going to go in. 7 years he played in the NBA, 5 teams we already know, and another one that comes out of that Greg Popovich school of coaching. Well, what's your immediate reaction to Ime getting the actual job now?
Hey, we just got one step closer to championship number 18 coming to Boston. Everything I heard yesterday when he accepted his role and did that press conference, it was music to my ears. He sat there next to Brad Stevens, the man who hired him, and said, listen, I'm sorry, Brad, but 27th in assists last season, That's not good enough. We got to play some team basketball. We're going to be defense first. I'm going to take Tatum and Brown to a next level of being all NBA caliber players. He's saying all the right things. Hopefully he's going to be doing all the right things because I'm excited. It's a new, hungry, young coach in this league with now an opportunity to be at the head coach level. He's been in the system for a number of years in Brooklyn, Philadelphia, and of course San Antonio, where he learned from the great Greg Popovich. I'm excited to see what he does.
BJ, I need to get your initial reaction because this is a young Boston core. We've spoken about the development of both Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in the last couple of years and how much they've pushed on as both as individuals but stars in this league. Are you happy with the opportunity that Emmy now has to obviously lead this franchise and be the head coach of a historic Boston Celtics team?
Oh, without question, it's a fabulous job for him to come into, especially as a first-time head coach. You know, he's got not one but two all-star caliber players, and now it's a matter of getting those players and saying, this is the core group, talking about Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and we're going to begin the process of building around them. So as much as we are excited about the head coach and the possibilities, we're excited of knowing what the players can do. Now the work begins. They're going to have to build a roster, a complete roster, and then continue to build to get to that championship number 18 out there in Boston, because that's always the goal with a Boston Celtics franchise. So this is a great opportunity. I'm excited to look forward to it, but it's easier said than done. They said all the right things. The press conference was terrific, but now let's get to work.
Ovie, we know the list of players that Aduko has played with. You think about the Tim Duncans, Kobe Bryant, LaMarcus Aldridge's, like Tony Parker's, Manu Ginobili's. He's played with excellent players. So when you heard him in the press conference talking about wanting to elevate the already all-stars that he has at the Boston Celtics, how priceless could that be in terms of his job security and what he does in terms of this role as now the head coach?
Well, it's going to be huge. You know, he's 100% going to have to get on the same page with those guys. But I definitely feel like there's two things he has going for him. Well, he has a lot going for him. He's a Boston Celtics head coach, but he's played with absolute all-star level talent. You know, he's played with top caliber players, and he's also coached under sort of the best, you know. So he's been in the company of greatness, you know, and for the Boston Celtics to win, you know, those are two pieces that are going to have to evolve and continue to develop, you know, because Boston Celtics will go as they go. So, you know, again, sort of echo on what Mo and BJ said. He said all of the right things thus far. However, it's all well and good saying the right things, but now when you're actually in the head chair and you know, all of the pressure in a lot of ways falls on you, it's a completely different dynamic. So we'll see how he actually handles being, you know, the one at the head of the home. So, yeah.
Look, it's going to be important to see how he starts off. But talking of new starts, I've got some exciting news for you, NBA fans. Roll the graphic. The 2021 NBA draft is set and it will be here on Sky Sports. It's that time. I cannot wait because we get to talk about the new prospects that come into the league. We get ready to digest and break down and look at the impact that they're going to have at the next level. As we already know, the Detroit Pistons were the lucky ones who picked the first overall in the draft lottery. We know they cashed in on that 14% chance that they had. And the Rockets will select number 2, the Cavaliers will select number 3, and the Raptors, respectively, will get number 4. But it still has me questioning. I mean, this year's draft class looks good. BJ, we know you were down on the ground. We know that You're sort of assessing some of the talent that's there. I'm going to give you the responsibility. You're Troy Weaver right now. Looking at this class, is there a consensus overall number 1?
I don't think there's a consensus number 1, but I tell you what, you have a group that's all in the same category. You have Evan Mobley, you have Cade Cunningham, you have Jalen Suggs, and you have the kid Jalen Green. I think those guys are all in the same category. Now, the Detroit Pistons have to do what every team that gets the number 1 pick is to figure out what's going to be the best fit for them. But more important than that, who is going to be the most impactful player in this draft? We always talk about upside. We can talk about right fit. We could talk about the player who exhibits leadership and PERs and analytics and all of the things that add up to this complete picture. But most importantly, who is going to be the player that's going to be the most impactful in the win-loss column? And that's what it's going to come down to eventually. So I have complete confidence. You know, I'm a Detroit kid, and our Detroit Pistons up there, I'm sure Troy Weaver is going to thoroughly do all of his homework, go through this with a fine comb, look through all of these players. And in the end, I can assure you this, guys, he's going to pick the next Detroit Piston player. That's the key. Who fits with what they're trying to do? We know up there in Detroit, you can see they're building talent. They're building toughness. You can see the players they're getting in. They're getting back to the old bad boy ways up there in Detroit. I'm excited for the Pistons.
Detroit runs through his blood so much, he can't even hide it. Ovie, we see the sort of establishment that Kate Cunningham has made. A lot of draft mock picks at man and seeing him as the top overall pick. I mean, look, great both ways. I love what he does defensively. We know he's a mismatch for most people on the offensive side. The big man, Evan Mobley, as BJ just alluded to there, we've already seen what Jalen Suggs did in the NCAA tournament, how incredible he has been. And Jalen Green, there's no two ways about it. He's a walking bucket. But who's your number one overall pick? If you are Troy Weaver right now, who are you picking?
I mean, it's got to be either Cade or Mobley for me. And I just say that not because the other two guys aren't, you know, huge talents and can obviously fill it up. But I think what we're increasingly seeing in the NBA now is these bigger wing guard kind of players that are able to do it all, you know. So size along with skill is sort of, you know, who they're putting the ball in the hands of now, more so, I think. Especially with the kind of ball-dominant players that we're seeing come through the league now. Cade Cunningham, he seems like he could fit that mold of player. Now, I think we spoke about this on the last show. I couldn't tell you what position he's going to play in the NBA straight away, but he's one of those guys. He's 6'8". He's incredibly skilled. I think he's very poised for his age, for someone, of his age. But we'll see in the NBA sort of where exactly he fits in. However, regardless where you put him, he's going to make an impact. And Mobley, again, you're talking a footer. You can't teach that. And you're talking someone who's skilled. And the more big men that can fit into this new style of playing, I think that's becoming a luxury, and I think this year we're seeing that with my boy Ayton, because he's like a new school, old school big, if that makes sense. You know, he's able to fit into this new style of playing while not necessarily all the way playing on the perimeter all day. You know, he still does what the big man does, you know, but he's showing how to survive as a big man in today's era, in today's game. And I think now people watching that are going to say, oh, hold on. Okay, we want these guys that can stretch the floor, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, Mo will tell you down there in Boston, they seem like they've got all of the pieces, but you need an anchor in the middle. You need an anchor in the middle. That's, you know, since the beginning of basketball, at the end of the day, it's the sport of giants. So you need an anchor in the middle, and yeah, you can't teach the size, so. That's
easy to say that when you're 6'7", isn't it? I mean, it's easy
no,
to say.
No, but let's talk about it though. You know, Luka, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James. I can ring off the guys. You know, this is the mold of player. You know, they're these wing guards that are very ball dominant that can do a lot. You know, you can put the ball in their hand and they can run the game. Or you can you can take them off the ball and you can put them on the block and say, okay, we need you to be more of a scorer now. And I'm not going to pull a Mo. I'm going to let everyone else talk today.
Mo? I didn't even... Mo?
Hey, listen, I just give the people what they want. Don't be mad at me, be mad at the people. I'm giving them what they want. It's in my fault they want to hear what I'm saying. You know what I'm talking about?
Mo,
I'm spitting out real every time.
Mo, I think if we put a poll up, I think we know who more people would want to hear.
This is NBA, not Love Island again, my G.
Hey, I'm just saying. It's fact. Numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie, Mo.
Mo. I'm saying that threw me off. Mo, so look, Ovie did make some good points there because there's a lot of hybrid players in this draft class. It's a lot deeper, I would say, than previous draft classes as well. I think there's a lot of players that could play a number of positions, and you're seeing a responsibility. What I've noticed is a lot of the people that's getting taken or selected or projected to get taken are very ball dominant in terms of wanting the responsibility of the ball in their hands. But what do you think? Is it a consensus number one that Cade should go number one? Is there somebody that we're sleeping on? And what's your prediction for how this draft class will actually work out?
Well, I think sports fans have a tendency to love to assign a winner and a loser to everything. They love saying, okay, this guy was the star of the draft, this guy was a bust of the draft, etc. Sometimes things just work out well for all teams involved. We talked a little bit about Deandre Ayton just now. That draft class where he got picked, Luka Doncic got picked, Trae Young got picked, Jaren Jackson Jr. got picked as well. All those teams drafted very well. And I think we're going to have a similar situation on our hands this year, regardless of if Cade Cunningham is the consensus number one pick or not. A lot of the other guys that BJ and Ovie listed, they're going to be great players for their teams if they continue in the way that they're projected. It could be a draft where all top 5 teams come out as winners. The thing that I'm most intrigued by is the potential for some draft day deals to go down with this, because I've heard a few rumblings from around the league. There's a few teams that are interested in moving up, moving down, and there's a few big name players that could be on the move in deals revolving around some of these high picks in the NBA draft as teams look to shift from trying to contend to trying to rebuild. So that's all I'm saying. I don't want to talk too much right now. I know we don't want me to keep going, so I'm not going to give the people the rumors that we're hearing, but you guys are going to have to stay tuned for that one, because there may be some big names on the move around the league very soon. But like I said, the people don't want to hear me talk, so I'm going to keep quiet on that one.
All I'm going to say, just quickly before we give you the date as to where you'll be able to find that, and obviously the draft date, just a note, Orlando management, you have one job, yeah? If these guys slide, make sure you pick these people up, because I'll be real with you, a couple of weeks ago, I wasn't particularly happy. They know in the group chat I wasn't happy. I sent in a message right now. Tennessee freshman, yeah? Keon Johnson, don't miss him. Scotty Barnes, don't miss him. 5-star recruit out of high school. We know what I'm talking about. BJ, tell them about Jonathan. Yeah, they need to know about Jonathan right now, who's been lighting up with his production for the OKC G League. Do not miss these guys. I don't care if we have 5 to 8. Do not miss these guys. I'm serious. I will believe in your franchise. I will believe in your franchise.
When was the last time you were happy? You said you're unhappy with the Orlando Magic. When was the last time you were happy with the Orlando Magic management?
But regardless, as you know, draft night, July 29th, we bring it to you here exclusively on Sky Sports. We cannot wait. Yeah, it will be live, 100%. The tweets will be flying. And I expect you guys to be busy on the timelines as well. We see the new draft, world-class talent that's coming into the best league in the world. As you can see, these guys are ready to go, so I'm not going to hold them back anymore, because we're going to find out right now who actually does have the hot takes in Hot or Not. Let's go. Rule number 1 on the show, as Mo would say, secure the bag. Rule number 2 on the show, yeah, produce your best numbers in your contract season. There is no other excuses for it. And that's exactly what Deandre Ayton is doing right now. When you're eligible for a big deal, young man, rumble. Yeah, because right now I'm seeing 19 points, 22 rebounds, 9 of which were offensive, I might say, and 4 blocks. This guy is growing into the moment. Yeah, and as you can see right now below me, I love it when a young brother wins. So I'm going to give him the credit he deserves, because he won't sing it for himself. So I'll sing it for him. Deandre Ayton has done everything that he needed to do to secure the bag, Ovie. Yeah, do you agree?
I'm raising the roof right now.
Let's go back to the 90s.
I'm raising the roof.
Let's go back to the 90s.
Hey, that take is so hot. The roof is off. The roof is off. At the end of the day, look, everyone's looking for a big man that can do a bit of everything. Ayton, I think, obviously, he has benefited hugely, massively from playing with Chris Paul. But also, I think what he's shown is that, okay, he can be a third option guy and absolutely dominate a game in his own way. Absolutely. Because that's what he's done for us. He's been the quiet guy that he comes, he puts his hard hat on, and he goes to work. But he doesn't need you to draw up plays for him. He doesn't need you to throw 50 basketballs down in the post. This is a guy, he is such a luxury to have someone who is so productive. 70% clip. Do you know what that means? Do you know what that means? I don't care if you're playing in the paint, outside. 70% is unreal, you know. But he's been effective, and I feel like he's a great team guy. he's been someone that he was highly touted coming in to the league. And in my opinion, this might be a wild statement to some people, but I see him as he's a poor man's Hakeem. I see him, he's like a poor man's Hakeem Olajuwon, in my opinion, because he has footwork. He's got a little bit of touch. He's got a little bit of game to him. He can play on the post a little bit. He blocks shots. He's got great timing. Like, there's so many little things that the way he moves, I'm like, okay, that reminded me of Hakeem a little bit. Obviously, Hakeem, there's levels. Respect to the OG. But, yeah, no, I think it's definitely time to give him the bag. I think he deserves it. However, I'm not sure how it would work with salary cap space on our team. And, obviously Bridges has had a great season. And we've got a couple really strong pieces and young pieces that are growing. But he deserves it. He deserves it. I think if anyone says that's a cold take, I will be signing out for the day. But yeah, he deserves it. There's no doubt about it.
And on that note, this is where I bring in Mr. Mo Mooncey, because it's difficult. It's difficult. On that note, this is where I bring in Mo Mooncey, because
Mo, we have what you need. We have what you need.
It's difficult, Mo, to be drafted before Luka Doncic and to be drafted before Trae Young is never easy. No matter what, you're always going to have a certain question mark next to yourself. But what I've seen in the biggest moments right now, he's certified himself as a big game player, Mo, and he's ready for that max level contract. But do you agree? And this is exactly what the people have been waiting for, because right now we might get a head-to-head.
Nah, listen. I'm going to tell you right now, JD, that's not a cold take. But I'm going to tell you also, that's not a hot take. Do you know what that is? That's common sense. For the Phoenix Suns, you have to give this kid the bag. He earned it. He deserves it. And more importantly, he's going to get better and better. He's 22 years old. This kid has come into the league and he's not been phased. This is his first playoff run. We often talked about, before the playoffs, we were talking about the Phoenix Suns and their lack of experience. Well, they're looking like they're set to maybe make the NBA Finals real soon. And he's not been phased by it. Ovie, you talked about the 70%. Let me give you some stats, because I know how much you love the numbers when I break the numbers down.
Talk to me. Hey, talk to me, Mo. Talk to me.
He's shooting. Listen, right. Deandre Ayton is shooting 70.9% from the field. That number is the best number in NBA postseason history. In fact, that number is so efficient, he could miss his next 20 shots and he would still be first on that list. Second on that list is James Worthy in 1985 with 62.2%. So the level of efficiency has been absolutely unreal. He's doing it on the inside and actively, he's been getting it done. Think about this. In the last round, he's had to go up against Nikola Jokic. Before that, up against Anthony Davis. And I know people say Anthony Davis got injured, but before Anthony Davis got injured, DeAndre Ayton was holding him to about 30% from the field. So
he was.
You tell me. So I don't want to hear the excuses from Laker fans and whatever fans that they're talking about, our team was injured. I don't want to hear it. And also now, the Clippers are presenting a brand new challenge for him. Can you stay on the court when the Clippers go to the small ball that no team have had an answer for so far? And so far, he's proven that unlike a certain max contract center in this league that resides in the town of Utah, he can stay.
I knew Rudy Gobert was going to come up at some point.
Because we're talking right now, JD, your take, I'm saying it weren't cold, it weren't hot, it's common sense. I've got a take for you right now, and I want to know what you guys think. In fact, I'm just going to pose it as a question. After Embiid and Jokic, who's the third best center in the NBA right now?
According to the All-NBA, you have to turn man and say at this moment it's Rudy Gobert and Defensive Player of the Year as well.
We just seen him get played off the floor by the Clippers, and we're seeing this kid hang around with the Clippers. So that's all I'm saying.
I'll tell you, hey, JD, let me stop you there.
Rudy Gobert. Go on.
Rudy Gobert is fool's gold. That's what that is. That's fool's gold. He will shine in the regular season, and he will get you a first-class ticket to Cabo as soon as the regular season is done. That's what hey, that max contract is good for all of the organization of the Jazz to get first-class tickets for everyone. Cabo, we're going on holiday because he ain't taking you to the chip. That ain't where that's not where it's at.
I would pay good money to see Producer Ellis's face right now. I'm talking good money. We might have to get a graphic just to Producer Ellis. You know when you like a poll of when you're winding Ellis up? I can just
Ellis
feel it.
knows,
Like
bro.
the
Trust
people at
me.
home
No,
right
he
now.
knows. He knows. Ellis knows.
You put Ellis through
Ellis
some
knows.
things on this show. But BJ, I'm looking at DeAndre's presence, his effort, the rebounding, the shot blocking, the communication on defense, switching out onto the smaller guys, as Mo was just alluding to, the effectiveness to produce as a high clip, both inside and around the bucket. Give this man the money he deserves. We call you the agent and the best agent in the world on this game for a reason, BJ. So give this man the money he deserves. Do you agree?
Well, I do agree. And I agree from this standpoint. You know, to listen to this, guys, and to all of our listeners here, Deandre Ayton was drafted number 1 ahead of Luka Doncic. He's drafted ahead of Trae Young. And just those 2 players alone, and for him to be able to come in and play as a big in a league when we're talking about we're in a small ball era, that's one amazing accomplishment for a young player. So for him to be able to hold his own, but more importantly, he is an impactful player. I mean, literally in Game 4, DeAndre Ayton was he was a real reason why they won that game. I think Coach Monty Williams said DeAndre Ayton carried us in Game 4. DeAndre Ayton, what I love about bigs, because the bigs are back. This is the first year in a long time where you're seeing bigs. We talk about Jokic now, the reigning MVP. We talk about Joel Embiid. And now we have to put DeAndre Ayton in that conversation. Rudy Gobert, regardless of what we say, he is the current reigning defensive player of the year. So the impact of the bigs is back. But most importantly, I'm impressed with DeAndre Ayton's ability as a big to really adjust his game, because it's not easy for bigs to be able to play small ball. They have to give multiple efforts on the defensive end. They have to guard the rim because they are tall. They have to rim protect. But now they have to go out there and be able to switch and defend on the perimeter. They have to be able to play with this new pace of the game. Well, DeAndre Ayton is putting this all together. He is an athlete. He can rim protect. He has great touch, terrific hands. And then he has that one thing that you can't teach. He can play vertical basketball. He can play in tight spaces. Anything above the rim, he finishes. And you can see the connection that I think it was Ovie who mentioned with Chris Paul. So give this young man credit. We have every reason to believe he's going to get better and better. But more importantly, you can see what he's doing in high pressure situations. When I see a young player take their show on the road, I know you got something. This kid, DeAndre Ayton, can go in an opposing team's home court and perform. That's big time. That says a lot for him. And I'm excited to see what the future holds, because as much as I love the guards, it's all about the bigs, baby. And when you find a big man that can play and loves to play like DeAndre Ayton, and by the way, he has a little personality with him, it's fun to watch. I think the future is bright there in Phoenix.
Can I just say?
Go for it.
No. I feel like we have to also appreciate. I feel like there was a lot of pressure put on Ayton in a subtle way, because obviously with Trae Young being an absolute beast, with Doncic, like the whole world's been raving on about Doncic, and then we forget he had to miss a long portion of the season, for issues off the court. So to come back from that as a young guy who's the number 1 pick and the number 2 and the guys behind you are hot on your case, and it seems like they've taken over the basketball world, for him to stay locked in, that's huge props to him, man, for a young player. And I think that shows a certain level of, like BJ said, love for the game, but willingness to grow and willingness to learn, and he understands that, So yeah, man, huge shout outs to DeAndre Ayton. I appreciate you guys. I feel like this is Suns Appreciation Day.
Yeah, well, in fairness, you're only 1 win away from the NBA Finals. And obviously, we have that game right now. And as BJ said, I like it when a guy can take their business to the road. And DeAndre Ayton is going to be able to prove whether or not he can do that right there in the Staples Center. Game 6, 2 a.m. You know what's behind us. Sky Sports Arena, Sky Sports main event. There's no more excuses. Can the Suns make that final step? And speaking of teams that's on the verge of NBA Finals, another team has reasserted themselves in terms of their control over their conference finals. And I know that everyone's talking about the East and everyone was thinking about the fact that the Bucks should have automatically asserted themselves. But the Hawks have been the biggest surprise this year. There's no two ways about it. But we saw something else that was a surprise. 20 points in the fourth quarter. That was a surprise. Yeah. Putting himself on fire. That was a surprise. He went into video game mode. That was a surprise. And at this stage, when you're scorching like that in the fourth, at that moment, everybody else needs to get out of the house because don't even worry about it. It's over. And I'm talking about the one, the only, Khris Middleton. So I'm serious, guys, when I turn around and say this. After watching Game 3, Khris Middleton is the most important piece for that Milwaukee Bucks team. And I know it sounds crazy, but he is the difference maker. Mo, how you feeling?
You're going to have to repeat that for me, JD. You said Khris Middleton's the what for the Milwaukee Bucks team?
He is the most important piece, and he is the difference maker. And let me explain. I know what I'm getting from Giannis Antetokounmpo, but I'll quote BJ Armstrong right here. You give the ball to your best player in the final few moments. Who did the Bucks give the ball to? I'm just saying, when they want to see the game out, who did the Bucks give the ball to? So 15 points in game 1, 15 points in game 2, and I saw the scorch in game 3. I'm giving Khris Middleton the flowers he deserves.
Let me just take in what you're saying to me right now. You just said the Milwaukee Bucks' most important player is the guy that scored 15 points in game 1 and 15 points in game 2. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 2-time MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, is the most important player on the Milwaukee Bucks. Take Giannis off the Milwaukee Bucks, they're not even where they are. Khris Middleton is carrying you all the way through the season.
Is he the difference maker?
Khris Middleton, they won game 2 and they won game 3. He scored 15 points. Khris Middleton making shots is just doing his job. That's what he's meant to do, right? And that could be the difference maker in making Giannis' life easier, but he's not the difference maker in the team winning or losing because, as you've seen, they've won games where he hasn't shown up. Now, I don't want to take anything away from Khris Middleton. He had a fantastic game. He single-handedly outscored the Atlanta Hawks in the fourth quarter, and it's not a surprise to me because you're saying it's a big surprise because Khris Middleton is the 4th most efficient pull-up jump shot shooter in the NBA this season, trading only Steph Curry, Kyrie Irving, and Zach LaVine, right? If we're looking at it like that, the Atlanta Hawks as a matchup now, this is where I'm saying he's not the most important player because Giannis Antetokounmpo being on the court is the difference because right now what's happening is they're running double the amount of pick and rolls with Khris Middleton as the ball handler as they have last year and throughout the regular season, right? So now when Giannis is setting the screen as the roll man, the two defenders are communicating and worrying about Giannis rolling to the bucket and catching the lob, leaving Khris Middleton the ability to pull up and cash in those jump shots. He's doing his job. Add to that, you've got to factor in the flow of the game. I know all these box score merchants came out after the last game and said Khris Middleton is Batman and Giannis is Robin. I don't want to hear it, bruv. Because right here on the HeatCheck, I know what they do on all those other NBA shows. Right here, we analyze the game and we break it down correctly, right? You've got to factor in things like this. What's called a cross match. If he's guarding Trae Young on defense and the Hawks miss or they get a turnover, when you come down the other end of the floor, the defense doesn't have time to reset. Therefore, Trae Young will still be guarding Khris Middleton as Khris Middleton was guarding him. You telling me that Khris Middleton ain't going to rise up and shoot over Trae Young every single time down the floor? He's got the size mismatch. He's been an all-star in this league. This is what he's meant to be doing. So I get, we got to give him praise. We've got to give him his flowers for the excellent performance in Game 3. But saying he's the most important player on the Milwaukee Bucks and all these guys that are coming out here saying he's the Batman and Giannis is Robin is foolish. It's disrespectful to Giannis and everything he does on the basketball court. And add to this Atlanta Hawks team favorably is suited towards Khris Middleton taking over because their defensive strength lies in Clint Capella protecting the bucket and John Collins' versatility. You got Khris Middleton, who you going to score on? Trae Young, Bogdanovic, Lou Will, or you're going to throw Gallinari at him who can't move like he did when he was young. The matchups are in Khris Middleton's favor. He's simply doing what he's meant to do. Like we said last time on whoever we were talking about last week, if you're a max contract player, go out there and do your job. That's what you're meant to be doing. We shouldn't be impressed that he's not scored 15 points and 15 points. Now he scored 30 points, we're all celebrating. This is what you're meant to be doing. It's the playoffs. It's time to show up. Show up or go home.
I'm just glad you got the wording correct. No, I'm glad you got the wording correct because nobody on this show was turning around and saying that Khris Middleton is the best player because that would be a silly take. And as Mo said, ignore those. No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. The most important player doesn't necessarily mean you're the best player. What I was saying is, he is the difference maker though, because when Khris Middleton goes off, the Bucks are important and the Bucks look unbeatable. So going back to the point, BJ, this guy's been disrespected in this league. He's been overlooked, even though, as Mo said, he is an all-star. But I'm going to reiterate it. I believe he's the difference for when the Bucks are serious contenders and when the Bucks look like everybody else. Because let's not be around the bush. They are the favorites.
You know, I was listening to Mo, and that was a great take by Mo. That was a terrific take. And I just want to add to this. Khris Middleton, look, I'm not taking away anything from Khris Middleton. You know, what he's done, what he's accomplished speaks for itself. In my view, in my opinion, the most important player after Giannis, there's Giannis and then there's everyone else, is Jrue Holiday. Okay, Jrue Holiday is without question the most important player because he has to do something that they've missed so desperately in the past. They have to find someone who else can manage the game, time and score. Khris Middleton is a scorer. His job is to score. When he scores, it gives them a second option because he doesn't have to carry the load of playing against a double team like Giannis, a triple team. Giannis, you have to build a wall. If we could just let Khris Middleton play one-on-one basketball on the weak side of the floor and he scores, check. But Jrue Holiday has to do two things. He's got to defend more times than not the best perimeter player, especially the guy who's playing off of the dribble. In this case, we're talking about Trae Young. And then he has to be aggressive. When Jrue Holiday is aggressive, this team is really, really good. When Jrue Holiday. So I think Jrue Holiday is the key to all of this because you can't play, and you guys have heard me say this over and over again, you have to have a guard who can play downhill. Giannis is probably the most unique player in the NBA. He's basically a center who plays downhill. Now, when you have another guard who can take some of the ball handling duties from Giannis, talking about Jrue Holiday, and he scores, and he defends those small, quick guards, Kyrie Irving, Trae Young, you know, potentially we're talking about Chris Paul. To me, he is the second most valuable player on the team. It may not show up in the box score, scoring points, but trust me, guys, this guy's value, that's a reason they paid him a large sum of money too, because something was missing. And I think he and what he provides is going to be a key if they're going to win the championship this year.
Have I got a final believer? Yeah. I'm 2-0 down right now, Ove. I feel like the Clippers. Yeah. But I ain't giving up yet. Yeah. You turn around and tell me. People question Middleton's consistency. They've looked at him and turned around and said, I've even people question his credentials in this league. And there's no two ways about it. Mo said the best stat earlier. The efficiency that Khris Middleton shoots at, mid-range, inside, outside, it doesn't matter. There's no two ways about it. He's a bucket in this league. But I've looked at the progress of this Bucks team. When he's on song, he is the X factor that takes them over the edge. And that's where the hot take comes from. That's why I believe he's a difference maker. Do you agree with me? Or are you going to go with the other two?
No, you know what? No. Hear me out. I do agree with what the other guy's saying because I understand what both Mo and BJ have said. And I agree with them from the standpoint of, well, I think this is obvious. Giannis he's the best player on the team. Do you know what I'm saying?
Facts.
But I see where you're coming from on that as far as him being the difference maker. Because like you guys said, Giannis is going to catch a double team. He's going to be doubled. And I hear you as far as managing the game, defense wins championships. All this stuff is cool. But you need a bucket. But you need a bucket to win the game. I'm going to be real with you. All the teams you can talk about, any team you want. Yeah, they might have been heavily defensive teams or teams that are more, you know what I'm saying, built around offensive. All of the teams who have won a championship in this NBA, in that league,
they got
have a bucket on the team. Giannis he dominates the game, but he's not a bucket if you see what I'm saying. He's not a scorer. I wouldn't say Giannis is a scorer. He can go out there and put up 30 points, but the style of play, I feel like once you do pop a wall, it can become stagnant. And now if you also are feeding someone who, Giannis is going to go downhill and he's going to be aggressive. So he's going to get fouled. And like he said the other day, I done shot 8 in a row. I done shot 2 back-to-back air balls at OKC. I've been there, baby. That's Giannis's words. You know what I'm saying? And I take my hat off because I salute him because that's how you have to be when you're in Giannis's shoes. However, now when we're talking about being able to get a bucket down the stretch, crunch time, playoff basketball where, okay, they're going to build the wall and you have to have the ability to make tough shots. Once we see finals basketball, we've seen Kawhi do it. We've seen Ray Allen do it. We've seen LeBron do it. We've seen
Kobe Bryant.
Steph Curry do it. We've seen Kobe do it. We see, like, the list goes on, and you guys can continue that list for ages. But you need someone on your team who can make, you know what I'm saying, tough looks. And for the Bucks, I think he is that guy. And Mo said it before, in regular season, he's like, it's no surprise that he can be a bucket. Regular season, we've seen him doing this kind of thing for a while. However, we've never seen him show up in the playoffs and have the ability to score in the way he does. Now, when I say he's a scorer, that doesn't mean necessarily he'll even put up 30. But it's the way he is able to score, that's what makes him the difference maker. He doesn't need to necessarily get all the way to the bucket. He doesn't need to necessarily go to the line. He can make tough shots because it's his game. Do you know what I'm saying? So from that standpoint, I would say, no, I get it. Middleton is the guy. He has to be able to get them, make some tough buckets for them down the stretch, or they don't win. Not in the playoffs. Not in the playoffs. Not when all the chips and all the marbles are on the table and the team has scouted you so heavily. Of course, they're able to pull it out in the regular season and, one game, but you're not going to be able to do that for 4. You're going to need him to show up. If he didn't show up for any of the games and he scores 15 every single game, I don't know if they're still in the playoffs. I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you need someone who's going to be able to make tough shots.
I hear you. My question is just this.
That's why I say, I'm not saying he's the best player. Giannis is the best player.
No.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to say Drew isn't a huge piece, because he is. However, bro, if you don't have someone on your team who got a little bit of wiggle and can get to something, let me tell you something, my guy. Everyone else got him. Everybody else got him.
It's interesting.
Atlanta got Trey. The Clippers got 2 of them. And
Reggie and
down in Phoenix, you know who I got. He done scored 70 of them things. He done scored 70 of them things. So
this
you
is
see where I'm coming from, that Mo. You see where I'm coming from.
I hear you, but here's
you
my
need
question.
someone to be able.
Here's my question.
You need someone to be able to get to it. So that's why I say.
Here's my question, right?
I would agree with that. Go on.
The way we're talking about Khris Middleton is he's the difference maker and showing up. All right. Well, let's say we're talking about every team needs a bucket guy, someone that can go and create their own shot, right? There's no one in the league right now better at doing that than Kevin Durant, okay? We just saw the Milwaukee Bucks put the Brooklyn Nets out. And the difference maker in that series, if we were going to have the same discussion, would have been Joe Harris, because him hitting threes as a role player would have been the difference, because KD can get to his bucket all he wants, right? So basketball is a whole team thing. So my thing with Khris Middleton is he needs to be, if he's going to be that guy and people are going to talk about him like this and say he's the difference maker, he's going to take over the fourth, he's got to do it every game, because I didn't see him do it in game 1. I didn't see him do it in game 2. I didn't see him do it in the Brooklyn series either. So here's my question is he going to take that game 3, that huge performance, and springboard off that and be confident now and take that on for the rest of the playoffs? Or when he meets potentially the Phoenix Suns in the final, where they have elite perimeter defenders in a Bridges or a Crowder that's matched up on him, and it's not going to be a Kevin Huerter or a Trae Young that you've got to score over, is he still going to be able to perform? That's why I can't say Khris Middleton is this or that until we see him come up against that true test in the NBA Finals if the Bucks can get there.
Yeah. I can go? Yeah, I see where you're coming from. However, I think it's a little bit different. I think Middleton it's not, when you're talking about X factors, your X factor isn't going to win you every game. Do you see what I'm saying? Especially over in the playoffs over a 4-game series. Like, you know, if Boston go to the championship now, you know who your two guys most likely are going to be leading the way. However, the difference maker is not going to be those guys because everyone's accustomed to that level of play. Like, Tatum's going to go in, he's going to get buckets, he's going to do his thing. Brown's going to do his thing. Two of your guys, that's a given. Now, the difference maker, in my opinion, is that other guy. That other guy that has the ability to bring what's needed to that team. And for the Bucks team, they've got, I feel like they're hard-nosed enough. I feel like they're a tough enough team. Now with Drew Holiday, I feel like they've got someone who can put pressure on guards. I feel like they obviously have the inside presence with Giannis. They've got the shooting big men. They've got the role guys that can shoot, but they don't have anyone else who has wiggle. You know what I'm saying? That's why I call it, like, who got some jiggle to their game. And for that team, he's a difference maker. Now, I think the difference maker on each team will be different, but the difference maker, in my opinion, is not necessarily your franchise guy it's what that team, do you know what I'm saying? Like, every team has that little weakness, but that difference maker should potentially be able to fill in the holes when need be. And that's why
I hear you. I was just tired of people saying that he's the best player on the Bucks and he's Batman.
Oh, no.
And
No, that's ridiculous.
You guys know what we've been hearing all week.
We've seen it. We've seen it.
I have to show them the levels, you know what I'm saying?
We've seen it, Mo. We've seen it. BJ, I feel like I'm slightly converted Mo, slightly. I feel like Ovie slightly converted Mo to make you... BJ, I'm going to give you a chance. One more chance for this road over here. You're going to curl to the right slightly. Are you feeling about difference maker?
I'm not. And here's why.
I'm doubling down.
I'm literally doubling down. You know, look, this is no slight against any player. You are who you are in this league. And Khris Middleton is Khris Middleton, okay? But it's unfair when I start looking at that wing position because there are elite offensive talents at that position, okay? Khris Middleton, this is no slight against anybody, all right? And we were talking about Khris Middleton, but you could say what you want to. Kawhi Leonard is at the elite level of scoring, okay? LeBron James, you know what? Say what you want. Paul George is an elite scorer. Bradley Beal is an elite scorer, okay? That position where he plays, Luka Doncic, that's an elite scorer, okay? Now, I think he is the next level. Okay, you even take Klay Thompson. He may not have wiggle to your game like Mo said, like Ovie said, but what he does, this is, now, I don't think Khris Middleton is at that level. Do I think he really good? I mean, Devin Booker now is an elite level scorer. He's moved into that category. So now if you put it in its proper perspective, you're saying, okay, Khris Middleton is really, really, really good. Don't get me wrong. But some of these guys are elite level, okay? And he's not in that level because when we game plan in this league, we are game planning for Giannis for the first, second, third option. Teams are literally, guys, building a wall to stop this guy. Go ahead.
This is my point, though. Go ahead. This is my point. He's not like any of those other guys you've named, because every one of those other guys you've named on their team, they're Giannis. You see what I'm saying? So this, for me, is where the difference is. Because, okay, you're asking you're asking who can I put in that position? I don't know who you would say is the equivalent on the Dallas Mavericks, but you're asking really the second option, third option to be as good as other teams' first option. Well, no.
What we're talking about.
But because and I say that because that's not the strength, and that's not where the strength lies for the Bucks, in my opinion. You know, you're going to play towards Giannis. Now, if your second guy is pretty damn good, and he's not going to be playing against a lot of double teams, well, he doesn't need to be able to score like Luka, and he doesn't need to be able to score like Kawhi, because those guys are going to see doubles every night. I don't think Middleton's going to see a lot of doubles every night. However, if he's able to get to it in one-on-ones, which I think Giannis can put him in that situation, and they have enough shooting to keep him honest where, okay, they're not going to go from doubling on one. I've never seen them go from doubling on one side to doubling. They're not doing that. That's stupid. Well, now you have to really give him a serious consideration. Well, no, he's not an elite. He's not on that level, but I don't put him up there. But he's the difference maker for what the Milwaukee Bucks need. Now, the elite guy on that team, we all know about him. We all know how he gets down. We know how he gets down because he just
Are you saying Khris Middleton's the best role player in the NBA, Ovi? Is that what you're saying?
Wait. No, we're not opening that kind of worms. We're not opening that kind of worms. All I'm gonna say is we get an opportunity to play this out properly, and Khris Middleton will get an opportunity to write his own history because there's still an important series to be played. The Eastern Conference Finals here live for you on Sky Sports. You know, there's a massive question mark over that man right there, Trae Young. How good is that ankle going to be? Right now it's listed as questionable, but we get to find out as to how the rest of it does play out. Game 4, Game 5, Game 6 and Game 7, of course, if those are necessary, we'll all be here for you on Sky Sports, and we cannot wait to see how it plays out throughout the rest of this week and next. Trust me, when I say this here, we could have had that Khris Middleton chat for a good another hour, but tune in for the overtime afterwards. You know what time it is. We'll make sure we pick it back up. But it's now we cross, obvious course, to off the court because it's my favourite time and we get to dive into some of the OG sessions, some of the legendary things that's happened. And of course, you know what time it is. It's time for a Hoop Genius feature. So look, all this talk of the conference finals is just a gentle reminder for how close we are to coveting a new NBA champion. I appreciate that. I understand that. But there's actually a good chance out of these 4 teams that there could be a first-time champion. And when I say first time, I'm talking the first time in franchise history. Let me rattle through it quickly. Out in the East, you got the Hawks. Last championship, 58. The last time the Hawks won a championship, they weren't even in Atlanta. They were in St. Louis. You got the Bucks, 71. We can talk about the dynamic duo, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and the Big O. We already know what they established. But understand it's better part of 45 years since they've been back to the finals. If I take you to the West, it's even more scarce. The last time the Suns were in the finals, they ran into BJ and his boys. And we all know how that played out. Yeah. And the Clippers, well, Ty Lue is already the most successful coach in their history, according to the record book, because it's the furthest their franchise has ever been. I say all of that to remind fans, like myself, that potentially it could be our teams next. But I also say that to say that these players are genuinely rewriting their narratives in front of us. So let's actually look at some of the legends that have paved the way for these guys to do so.
In the tireless argument about the definitive all-time rankings of NBA players, fans are quick to compare the number and apparent value of championship rings. It's a reductive exercise that expects single players to simply transcend the fact that basketball is a team sport, one which relies not only on players, but entire organizations, and more often than not, luck. Even just making it to the NBA Finals is a huge underappreciated achievement that's eluded some of the game's all-time greats. Here's just a handful of NBA legends who couldn't get out of their conference. Pete Maravich and Alex English, both Hall of Famers, each only got as far as a single conference finals appearance. The late Pistol Pete Maravich spent much of his career fruitlessly trying to get a recently formed New Orleans Jazz into the playoffs. His title opportunity wouldn't come until he joined the Boston Celtics for his last season in 1980. Unfortunately for Pistol Pete, it wasn't one of the C's many winning years as they lost in 5 to the Sixers. Small forward Alex English was framed for an unguardable high-arcing jump shot that helped him become the top-scoring player of the 80s. In 1985, his Denver Nuggets took on the Showtime Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. Cruelly for English, a man who very rarely missed games, he suffered a broken thumb midway through Game 4 to rule him out from the series, and the Lakers won in 5. 5-time All-Star and soon-to-be Hall of Famer Chris Webber was an explosive power forward with a near-complete skill set. Webber had 2 chances to make the finals, but his best shot came in his tenure with the Sacramento Kings in 2002. The Kings had carved up the NBA and looked solid for the championship, but in the conference finals, they came up against the Shaq and Kobe Lakers, who'd sent them home 2 years running. They fiercely contested, often controversial series ran down to the wire. The last 4 games came down to the final moments, and Game 7 was wrapped up in OT. Unfortunately for C-Webb, it fell in the Lakers' favor. His next conference finals wouldn't be until 2007, playing off the bench for the Pistons, losing in 6 to a LeBron James-led Cavaliers team. Similar Game 7 heartbreak was suffered by George Gervin, the legendary shotmaker and 4-time scoring champion. A Spurs legend, predating Tim Duncan and David Robinson, the Iceman came agonizingly close to leading San Antonio to their first finals. Back in 1979, back when the Spurs played in the Eastern Conference, they met the Washington Bullets in the conference finals. San Antonio went up 3-1. However, the Bullets rallied back to level up in the series, and they won Game 7 in the dying moments. Gervin and the Spurs would make 2 more conference finals in the early 80s after switching over to the West. Unfortunately, this meant matching up against Kareem and Magic and the rest of the Showtime Lakers, who dealt with the Spurs both times. On a positive for San Antonio, they get plenty of luck against this next guy. No list of retired superstars who never made the finals could possibly be completed without Steve Nash. That's right, the 2-time MVP, 5-time assist leader, 4-time 50-40-90 club member, was also a 4-time Western Conference runner-up. 3 of those 4 defeats came in a brutal 4-year span. As a Maverick, he lost in the 2003 conference finals to the Spurs. Then after joining the Phoenix Suns, he'd lose to the Spurs again in 2005, and then his old Dallas team in 2006. The subsequent years would see San Antonio keep him from the conference finals before he finally got the better of them in 2010 to set up a 3rd-round matchup against the Lakers. The pivotal moment came in Game 5, with the series tied at 2-2. The Suns fought back from an 18-point deficit to draw level with under 4 seconds remaining. But then, Ron Artest's buzzer beater would help the Lakers take the win. The Lakers then stole Game 6 in Phoenix, ending Nash's last real shot at a title. He'd feature in the playoffs just once more in his career, but it was on the wrong end of the Spurs yet again as they swept the Lakers in 2013. So as you can see, that run to the finals has proved a consistent struggle for some of basketball's brightest talents. With the 2021 finals just days away, the next question is, who among certain active players can take themselves off that list?
Man, hold on to these moments, because I tell you now, making it to the finals is no easy feat. Everyone really needs to recognize that we're a little bit spoiled because we're in this LeBron James era of thinking that finals are easy to accomplish. Every single one of those legends you just saw right there, trust me when I say they made their mark on the NBA, and trust me, they are Hall of Famers, they deserve to be. But we're speaking to a 3-time champion on this show. So you tell me about the difficulties of winning a ring. Yeah, and you explain to me that pressure of making it not only to the finals, but then obviously achieving the ultimate goal.
It's so difficult, guys. And, you know, we always talk about the champion and what it takes to be a champion. But you know what? Yes, you do need talent. Yes, you need toughness. Yes, you have to play together. But you know what? The difference between a champion and those teams that win and those teams that don't, you need a little luck in there. You need a lucky bounce. You need a loose ball. You need sometimes, a guy will get an uncontested shot, and you just need luck as you go along the way. So getting to the NBA Finals is a feat in and of itself, right? You're playing, 7-game series against the very best players in the world. It's not like collegiate sports or you're playing in the playoffs when it's a 1 game. You have to beat a team 4 out of 7 games. That's, you can get lucky 1 game, but it's not likely that you're going to be lucky 4 out of 7. So tremendous opportunity. Right now, as I watch Chris Paul at this stage of his career, he's 36. I'm kind of rooting for him because he's been around. We know his injuries that he's had. He's been to the conference finals before. He's been in this situation. So the difficulty of getting there. Guys like that take advantage of every opportunity because you never know when it's going to come back. What an excellent. That was a terrific. And it just reminded me of how fortunate I was to get there, and not only get there, but have an opportunity to win. It was it's an amazing accomplishment.
Ovie, do you feel like maybe this modern NBA fan is a little bit spoiled just because of the LeBron James era, and we're seeing him consistently, and I'm seeing his finals record almost used against him to devalue his greatness? But really, when I think about it, that actually we should appreciate him more for showing that consistency year after year, because you just heard from a champion there how hard it is to make it to 1 finals.
I mean, I think there's greatness in every single generation of basketball. I think fans have been spoiled at every stop along the way, but it's funny because in retrospect, you're always like, oh man, that was such a great player. But when they were there, how did you treat them? And I feel like that's always the case. You know, I have no doubt in my mind once LeBron James is sort of retired and whatnot, everyone will all of a sudden realize, oh man, we just got done seeing one of the best athletes of all time. You know, so I mean, to be able to win a championship, to be able to get to the NBA championship, I could only imagine. You know, I think in basketball, there's a saying that, you know, it's almost impossible to beat the same team 3 times. You know, and that was something that we would always say, sort of in college and in the pros, because you know, typically in college you would play a team twice. You know, once at home and once away, and then if you play them in the playoffs, that would be the 3rd time. But you know, now these guys in the NBA are beating a team 4 times in you know, however many days. I mean, I can't imagine, because you know your opponent inside out. You know, so there's no hiding. You can't hide your weaknesses. They know every one of your weaknesses. You know, and I think if you are able to sort of process that and think about, okay, wait, how difficult that would be. You know, it just makes it all the more impressive. And I think regardless of who the championship winner is from year to year, that's why you have to appreciate them and you have to celebrate them. And I think they deserve it. So, yeah, man.
Mo, we're coming to the end of the show, but I have to ask you this question because that was one of my favorite sort of features that you've done.
Yeah.
If you had one name on that list that you went through, that complete archive of NBA history, just one name in terms of the person that comes to your mind right now that never won a championship and never had a chance in the finals like that, who is that player for you, that standout player?
You know, there's 2. If you're talking about players who never won a championship, I got to go with AI, even though he did make it to the finals. If we're talking about players that didn't make it to the finals, I'll go with Steve Nash. That Phoenix Suns, what they had there with the 7 seconds or less. Obviously, this is my generation growing up. There are so many legends in NBA history, but obviously watching something live happen compared to something that you revisit that's in the history books is slightly different. So I know that there's so many OGs I got to respect to, but watching that Phoenix Suns team and how great they were every season with Mike D'Antoni and Amari Stoudemire and Steve Nash, it makes me think of this. It's not just luck in getting to the finals. It's a lot of context. Because that Western Conference in the mid-2000s was a tough place. And as great, I don't want to take anything, I'm not talking down on LeBron James or anything like that, but some of his runs to the finals, where the toughest team he's had to play against is the Paul Millsap and Al Horford Atlanta Hawks. Let's just say if that Phoenix Suns team was in the East and maybe played a few years later, there's always got to be context around it. Do you know what I'm saying? There's always got to be context around whatever.
Yeah, but you did it. That's not context. That's not context.
It's easy to look at things in the history books.
I'm done.
It's easy to look at things in the history books. They made the finals or didn't make the finals.
I thought we were going to end this show today really peacefully. I thought we were going to end it so gracefully. I thought we were going to end this and so nice.
No, I don't do day like that.
I thought we were going to end this so nice.
No.
Yeah. I thought we were going to end this so nice. You know what? On that note,
listen, we got along too well today. I had to drop a little something before we left.
I got some WNBA action. I got some WNBA action here on Sky Sports as well, coming up this week as the Mystics face up against the Liberty. Incredible. Liberty had a convincing win last week over the Dream, which was really fun to watch. So make sure you tune in this week because both teams have a very similar records. 6 p.m. Saturday. You know what time to find us, Sky Sports Mix. And of course, no doubt about it, that's probably the hottest show on Snapchat for 2 reasons. Yeah, In the Paint with Mo Mooncey. Just make sure you check in for another episode available on Snapchat. This has been a very interesting episode. Very interesting episode. But what I will say is set us up perfectly because the finals are only around the corner and the HeatCheck family, you know we're going to bring the vibes each and every time. Yeah, so we'll see you then.
Sky Sports. Feel it all.